Welcome to Shadow of Truth, the betrayal beneath the concrete, the Taylor Wright murder case. The last errand. Before we begin, make sure you hit subscribe, drop a like, and turn on that notification bell. Because what you're about to hear isn't just another true crime story. It's a story about trust, greed, and betrayal, so chilling that it left investigators speechless. A police officer turned private investigator, a friend who knew every detail of how crimes are covered up, and a secret buried under concrete for 41 days. This is the story of Taylor Wright, the officer who trusted the wrong friend. The morning of Friday, September 8, 2017, didn't look like the beginning of a missing person poster. It looked ordinary. Florida sun climbing over roofs, a to-do list on a phone, a promise to stop by the bank, a message to a girlfriend that said she'd be home for dinner. If you'd met Taylor Wright in that light, you'd see what the years hadn't managed to take from her. The stubborn spark of someone who kept rebuilding, no matter how hard life swung. Taylor had been learning to rebuild since she was 13, when foster care replaced the word home. She carried a protective shell ever since. Short, wiry, wary, but under it there was warmth that made people want to take a second look, and then a third. A neighbor named Nancy had once done exactly that, opening her door and saying, "You can stay with us." It was simple, and it saved Taylor's life. From there, Taylor grew into a woman who surprised everyone, a police officer who could lift weights, outthink suspects, and still look movie star sharp at a family dinner. She married Jeff, a Marine, around 2007. In 2010, they welcomed a son, Drake. Taylor adored that child. She texted him every day, little check-ins, jokes, encouragement. If there was a center to her world, it lived in his laugh. But the life she built would begin to crack after a move to Florida. Arguments sharpened, finances tangled. A decade-long marriage snapped on the night they should have been celebrating 10 years. The divorce that followed was the sort of fight that drains more than bank accounts. A judge froze assets, tempers ran hot. One argument brought police and an arrest that shadowed her law enforcement career. Departments stopped calling. The badge that had once been her certainty slipped away. When things get tight, people look for places to stand. Taylor found two, becoming a private investigator and building a future with Cassandra, a school administrator with a calm good sense Taylor admired. Cassandra's birthday was coming up. Taylor was moving into her house, lugging boxes with a grin that said, "New start." And she was determined to prove stability for Drake. Steady work, a safer address, fewer storms. But there was a clock ticking. A court hearing loomed on September 12th. Taylor had to show $25,000, money she'd once pulled from a shared account in a move that made sense to her at the time and infuriated the court. She had stashed portions of it with people she thought she could trust. Chief among them, a friend, Ashley MacArthur, a former crime scene technician from a law enforcement family. They had bonded over the strange camaraderie of people who know how evidence gets read. Taylor believed Ashley would keep $34,000 safe until the legal dust settled. On September 8th, she planned to collect enough to walk into court ready. Her last text to Cassandra that late morning was routine. Small updates, the sort of breadcrumb you drop when you're busy, but thinking of home. Taylor and Ashley were together, running errands, bank next. Then the phone went quiet. When Cassandra's calls went unanswered, she tried Ashley. Ashley picked up with the breezy energy of a change in plans. They'd decided to go ride horses on her family's property. Taylor couldn't come to the phone. It was a strange pivot on a day when the bank should have been non-negotiable. Cassandra felt the first twinge of dread. Evening came. A text finally arrived from Taylor's number. "I'll call you later. I just need to think." The words sounded like Taylor, but not quite. The tone was off, as if someone had shaken her voice and poured it into a different glass. Another message near midnight said she needed a few days alone. Cassandra's unease hardened. Taylor didn't vanish on people she loved, least of all her son. Taylor didn't miss birthday dinners. Taylor didn't go silent. By the next week, worry had become action. Cassandra reported Taylor missing on September 14th. Police searched Taylor's home. Nothing suggested a planned escape. Her car, passport, cash, daily life, everything sat where it fell, on guard, as if waiting for its owner to return with takeout. Publicly, authorities were cautious. No immediate sign of foul play. Maybe she left on her own. Privately, those who knew her bristled. Nancy, the woman who had once taken Taylor in, said her gut wouldn't accept the idea that Taylor simply walked away from Drake and Cassandra. Something else had to be true. Investigators mapped the circle around Taylor and started pressing for timelines, receipts, pings, patterns. Cassandra cooperated completely, handing over her devices, walking them through her days, inviting scrutiny because all she wanted was a lead. Jeff, hundreds of miles away in North Carolina by then, could be checked and was. The grid of possibility narrowed until it drew a heavy line around the last person known to have been with Taylor, Ashley. When detectives interviewed Ashley on September 15th, she told a neat story. She'd picked up Taylor that morning, they bounced between spots, they rode horses on family land in East Milton. Late afternoon, they returned to Ashley's house. Taylor supposedly called an Uber downtown with a duffel bag containing the money. And then, poof, she was gone. It was a version built to sound harmless, right down to the casual rideshare detail, meant to be easily verified. Except it wasn't. The questions kept coming. Where exactly had they ridden? Which bank? What time? Why the switch from money to horses? Investigators reached for the silent witnesses. Phone records, surveillance cams, transaction logs. The fibers of the day began to pull apart. Cell towers didn't back up Ashley's route. Rideshare records showed no pickup. And in a ledger somewhere, a deposit dated August 16th whispered a dangerous possibility about where Taylor's safeguarded money might have actually gone. But that was still ahead. On September 8th, in the bright ordinariness of morning, Taylor believed she could pull one more piece of her life back into place. She wore her bullet necklace, the small token she favored, tough, offbeat, a reminder of the officer she'd been and the survivor she remained. She climbed into a friend's truck to run a simple errand before a hearing. She texted the woman she planned to build a home with. She imagined her son and the steadier years she wanted to give him. Then the day pivoted and the thread went slack. By nightfall, a phone was sending words that didn't feel like hers, and the people who loved Taylor were speaking a single sentence in different rooms. This isn't right. The search had begun. The lies begin to crack. By the time detectives sat down for their second interview with Ashley MacArthur, the story had already begun to split at its seams. What started as a horseback riding afternoon was now turning into a puzzle that didn't fit any of the facts. Investigators had quietly pulled Ashley's phone records, and the pattern they found was alarming. Her phone hadn't pinged anywhere near East Milton, the location she'd claimed she and Taylor visited. Instead, her signal placed her several miles away, in Cantonment, Florida, near a stretch of land owned by her family off Britt Road. It wasn't just the distance that bothered detectives, it was the timeline. The record showed Ashley had been in that same rural area multiple times that day, long enough for something more than a quick detour. She had also texted her cousin that morning to ask if he'd be at the property. He wasn't. He told her he'd be away at a funeral. It was the kind of detail that might have sounded innocent before, but in hindsight, it sounded like someone making sure the property would be empty. Detective Chad Wilhite noted something else about Ashley. She was too calm, even playful, during questioning. She laughed, she flirted, she joked with officers who were trying to find her missing friend. There was no urgency, no anxiety, no gruff, just an unsettling ease, like someone rehearsing an act. And the act was falling apart, the discovery of the missing money. On September 16, 2017, just 8 days after Taylor disappeared, the investigation took a hard turn. Bank records showed that on August 16th, nearly a month before the disappearance, Ashley had deposited a cashier's check for $34,000, made out to Taylor Wright, into her own personal account. The signature didn't match Taylor's handwriting. It looked forged. Detectives ran through her financial history. Before that deposit, her account balance had been negative $43,000, overdrawn, scraping the bottom. The moment that $34,000 hit, she went on a spree. Luxury items, credit card payments, new toys, even expensive gifts for her secret lover, Brandon Beatty, a bar owner in Pensacola. Within weeks, the money was gone. Ashley had claimed she was keeping it safe for Taylor. In truth, she'd burned through it, and now Taylor wanted it back. When detectives confronted Ashley with this evidence, her confident tone shifted. She spun new stories. Taylor was hiding money from her ex-husband, paranoid about being followed, planning to leave town, She even hinted that Taylor was alive, but didn't want to be found. Every explanation felt manufactured, an extra coat of paint over rotting wood. Investigators could sense it. She was trying to control the narrative. Cassandra's fear turns to resolve. Meanwhile, Cassandra Waller refused to stop searching. She knew Taylor's habits, the rhythm of her texts, the way she phrased jokes, the kind of emojis she used, and she was certain those messages after the 8th weren't hers. Cassandra reached back out to police, pushing harder, demanding that they treat the case as suspicious. Taylor wouldn't disappear without telling her son, she insisted, and she definitely wouldn't go horseback riding the week of a court hearing. Her persistence kept the case alive. Detectives began mapping out every person in Taylor's orbit again, and every route Ashley could have taken that Friday. Surveillance footage surfaced from a Tom Thumb convenience store around 10 a.m. It showed Ashley buying beer and snacks, the same kind of beer she said she brought for Taylor. It was mundane, but it placed them together that morning. The next day, another camera told a darker story. The Home Depot footage. On September 9th, one day after Taylor vanished, Ashley MacArthur was captured on security cameras at Home Depot. She wasn't buying paint or tools. She was buying bags of fast-setting concrete and potting soil. To investigators, it was like watching a nightmare assemble itself in plain sight. Concrete and soil, a combination that, in police work, often means one thing. When detectives asked Ashley about it later, she said it was for garden work, but there was no garden. Piece by piece, the image of Ashley MacArthur shifted from helpful friend to prime suspect. The evidence was circumstantial. No body, no DNA, no murder weapon, but it was stacking up fast. Whispers of confession, then came the witnesses. Brandon Beatty, the man Ashley had been showering with gifts, came forward with a disturbing memory. He told police that Ashley once said, "They'll never find her." When detectives asked what she meant, he hesitated, then repeated it. "She told me, they'll never find that woman." Two other friends, Alexis Cook and Jessica Wheeler, revealed even more chilling details. In the days leading up to Taylor's disappearance, Ashley had joked, or so they thought, about drugging Taylor's drink with cocaine to make her overdose. She said she wanted to put it in her beer, one friend recalled. She said the world would be better without Taylor. Another friend, Audrey, confirmed hearing the same thing. She said she couldn't fight Tyler physically, that Taylor was too strong, so she'd just shoot her. When detectives heard that, they didn't just have motive anymore, they had intent. Pressure builds. By October, the case had transformed from a missing person to a suspected murder investigation. Detectives had Ashley's forged check, her phone data, her suspicious Home Depot trip, and multiple witnesses saying she'd talked about killing Taylor. But they didn't have what mattered most, a body. Without that, prosecutors couldn't prove beyond doubt that a crime had occurred. That's when investigators made a bold move. On October 19th, 2017, they called Ashley back to the station under the pretense of returning her phone. They wanted to watch her face, to see if the pressure would crack her calm exterior. When she arrived, they read her Miranda rights and began asking new questions. Ashley kept up her mask for a while, repeating that Taylor wasn't the type to get hurt easily, that she was tough and probably just hiding out. But while she spoke, search teams were already combing through her family's properties, and one of those teams was about to make a discovery that would change everything. At 2201 Britt Road, K-9 units sniffed through a patch of overgrown land behind a fence. Within minutes, one of the dogs alerted near a disturbed section of soil. Officers stepped closer, and there, just beneath the surface, was the beginning of the truth. What they found next would prove that Taylor Wright's trust had been buried, literally, by the very person she called a friend. Buried secrets. The October air in Cantonment, Florida, was heavy when detectives and K-9 units arrived at the MacArthur family farm on Britt Road, a property Ashley had claimed she hadn't visited that day. Yet her phone records told a different story. By now, every investigator on the case could feel it. This wasn't a disappearance. It was something darker, and the ground beneath their feet was about to confess what Ashley never would. The dogs began to circle, noses down, tails stiff. Within minutes, one stopped. pawing at a small mound near a rusted fence line. The soil was disturbed, uneven. Detective Jeff Brown moved closer. A few careful shovels of dirt later, a faint, sickly sweet smell rose into the humid air. Then they saw it. Something pale, something round. It was a portion of a human skull. Buried in a shallow grave, encased in concrete and potting soil, lay the remains of a woman investigators had been searching for over a month. The same materials Ashley had bought at Home Depot. When they gently cleared more soil, they found what appeared to be a hammock wrapped around the bones. Entangled in it was something unmistakable, a bullet-shaped necklace, the same one Taylor wore everywhere, the necklace she never took off. Detective Brown later said quietly, "My gut told me it was her." By the next morning, dental records confirmed what everyone already feared. Taylor Wright had been found. Missing for 41 days, her body had been hidden by someone she once called a friend. The arrest. That evening, police arrived at Ashley MacArthur's home. She greeted them with that same confident calm, the same easy smile she'd worn in every interview. But this time, there were no questions, only handcuffs. Ashley was charged, and with second-degree murder, later upgraded to first-degree premeditated murder. Her bond was set at $1 million. For Nancy, Taylor's foster mother, the news brought both relief and heartbreak. "She was like my daughter," Nancy said, her voice breaking. "I took her in when no one else would. She didn't deserve this." Cassandra, Taylor's girlfriend, was devastated. "Ashley knew what she did," she said later. "She pretended to be my friend. She took someone I loved." For Drake, the little boy who had once been Taylor's whole world, there was silence. The kind of silence that comes from questions no child should have to ask. Justice, piece by piece, even behind bars, Ashley's arrogance didn't fade. Just months later, she convinced a judge to grant pretrial release on a $400,000 bond. She walked out wearing an ankle monitor, living under her mother's roof, free, while Taylor's family tried to rebuild from ashes. But the law hadn't forgotten her. In January 20, Ashley faced a separate trial for fraud and racketeering, linked to the money she'd stolen from her family's business and from Taylor. She was convicted and sentenced to 7 years in prison, plus probation. That conviction became a preview, a warm-up for what was coming. The murder trial. By August 2019, the courtroom in Escambia County was packed. Reporters, officers, and Taylor's family all sat in silence as prosecutors laid out a story that felt like a blueprint for betrayal. Assistant State Attorney Bridget Jensen stood before the jury. Her voice was steady, deliberate. Ashley MacArthur had motive. Ashley MacArthur had opportunity. Ashley MacArthur murdered Taylor Wright, then covered it with concrete, lies, and arrogance. The defense painted a different picture. Ashley was from a wealthy family, they said. She didn't need money, she had health issues. She couldn't have done something so physical,